Hello, everybody, and today we'll be discussing some set 8 decks. And today I am with Willi. So
Hi.
Willi is a great Blurple player. That's why we're gonna start with his deck for the set 8. There are some new cards. There are also some old cards that are less common to see. So please comment on your deck.
Yeah. So this is a first draft of a deck that came out late in the set 7, which is a Jafar version of the Blurple deck. So it uses a bit more of the Jafar shift line to be able to win, and especially the lamp, which with Tamatoa, it makes for some dumb things. Because the lamp is a cost 2, and if you banish it, and if you have a Jafar in play, you draw 2 cards, and if you have a Genie in play, it as well makes you bounce a 4 cost or less in the hand. So it makes for some extremely snowbally decks and games. So this is the basis of the deck. The new cards added are the new Elsa, which, if you have a lot of cards, has the effect of being a 4-drop, which is very good in Blurple decks because you always want to ramp from 2 to 4. So being a 3-4 is some very good stats in order to not die to anything. And the effect is you can pay 1, choose and discard a card, and you can exert chosen opposing character. So this is an effect that usually costs a lot, and there it costs a bit because discarding a card is never something that you really want to do, but the effect is very powerful, and it's something that Blurple has always been missing on the board control, which is if you don't have an Elsa or Hades, you're basically screwed. You have to let the character on this other side quest, and this sometimes on the late game is something that you really don't want to see. Just as a 2-off, because you just really want it for the mid to late game and not before. And the other new card that has been added is Monstro, which is a 6/8 rush that quests for 2. And once its effect is you can choose and discard a card. So again, the same cost of Elsa, but you can ready the character and he can't quest again for the rest of this turn. But this is a card that helps you manage the board and it's the purple be prepared for me. Just really in a way that usually as purple, you have a lot more cards in hand than any other decks, and this will help reduce the board on the other side quite efficiently, and it helps improve one bad matchup, which is the SteelSong matchup.
I think it's more like of a scar because prepared, you are blocked by Pete, and Monstro and Scar, both of them, you can use them. That's why also many Ruby decks added Scar to make the SteelSong matchup better.
Yeah, true. It's really closer to Scar in this way, but it's something that Purple did not have access to before now.
Board clear, yeah.
Yeah, board clear, and it's a really great tool for us, especially since we are ramping, so 8 is not this far off to reach. I've added in there the Into the Unknown, which is a card that I want to speak about because it's a card that's been much...
It's pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty. Yeah, the enchanted one is going to cost me a fortune. At the moment, it's not as good as we would like to be because the condition is very harsh, meaning that you need to have an exerted to do it on an exerted character, even though you can sing it with Bell, and it's a powerful card, but not early on in the game. And at the moment, we still have Let It Go that does the same thing without the need to be exerted. And the 2 cost difference is not this much of a cost in Blurple because you always have so much ink. So this card will probably see a bit less play. It's more of a, I'm going to say, Let It Go number 5/6 or Hades number 5/6 if you don't think you need Let It Go.
Yeah, I think this card has a lot of potential, and yeah, like if we compare it to Let It Go, you can play it much faster because there are some cards that appear. For example, the Blue Steel Arthur, and usually you don't have the ink to play Let It Go, or I mean, you don't have any 5 cost characters on the board, and in this case, you can ink this Arthur with Into the Unknown. So that's the advantage of the card, like its cost. If we see more and more cheaper characters with good characteristics, I think this card could be good to see play too. And of course, if Let It Go is just rotated,
Yeah.
you don't have any other options for.
Yeah, if Hades and Let It Go are rotated out, this will probably be the best solution for Blurple to manage the board, especially big creatures. That's why at the moment it's a really nice shiny card, especially the enchanted version, but it probably won't see too much play into the decks just right now.
True. So I also see 5 Jafars in your deck. Could you please explain me the Jafars? Because
So Jafar is really just
unusual.
for the lamp. The Jafar 4 is kind of a inkable Scrooge, the 5/5 for 4 that uninkable, that quest for 2. This does about the same, but it's inkable, and it has the benefits of being able to play the lamp, which is an item that is undercosted for what it does, but it has quite a lot of conditions that needs to be filled in order for it to be a good card. But once it's a good card, it's an extremely good card. And with Tamatoas, you can just replay the lamp multiple times and you can just win on card draws and tempo. The big Jafar is just there to be able to get sometimes you would just shift it or play it with a Croquet Mallet, which will be able to exert it straight away by trading with something else. And then you can start drawing with all the lamps that you've left in play. Every lamp that you left in play is too low if you have a Jafar, if you have the shifted Jafar in play. So you can just sometimes get a huge burst of lore from nowhere because of this Jafar.
I personally don't know if I really like the Croquet Mallet or the Lamb because they are uninkables, but I think there are only 9 or 10 uninkables in this deck overall, so probably it's not a huge problem.
No, there's quite a bit more. There
are more. Yeah, probably I didn't count
13
something.
uninkables in the deck
13,
because
yeah.
you've missed the genies, I think.
Yeah, I definitely missed the genius. Yeah, so 13 uninkables. I don't know if you like if you can break because of 13 uninkables. Because as far as I remember, Blurple used to play less uninkables.
Yeah. The only reason you can get away with this is because the lamp and Croquet Mallet costs so little to play, which means that they stay less in hand, which is more okay because you can play them earlier. And since the lamp we usually draw 2, it just flows into the way the deck plays.
Yeah, that's true. They will not be standing like in your hand like Halsas or Hades. Yeah.
Since you only have Hades as very high costed uninkables, you would just have the lamp that you can play a lot earlier and things like this. Since this deck only has Popsicle as a real turn 1, you need the Croquet Mallet to be able sometimes just to trade something straight away, because you will usually lose the board if you don't have the Popsicle Bell turn 1. You would usually lose the board early on, and you need some cards that gives rush just to be able to get back to the to equity and then start taking the control of the board and start drawing cards and things like this.
Okay. Yeah, that's reasonable. We also see 2 Finders Keepers. Yeah, I think that's pretty much common for this deck, for this card.
Yeah, it's needed because rabbits became a bit too slow.
And also there are uninkables, and we already have too many uninkables. We can add rabbits instead of Finders Keepers. It means that you add like 2 uninkables again.
Yeah, and we don't have anymore as much of the Mim Snake, Mim Fox, and things like this. And Finders as well is not a song, which is quite important in the discard matchup where you can keep
Ursula.
They can't Ursulite.
Yeah, Ursula cannot. Yeah, I just remembered about this guy again who tried to discard my Brawl with his 1/3 Ursula at Bochum.
So yeah, the finders keepers are really useful into this, and it's just a 5 draw 3, so it's never bad, and especially since the deck needs a lot of cards in hand in order to be able to discard them to Monstro and Elsa. You need to be really full on hand always, like be at least on 5 to 6 cards.
Of course, you definitely need to do this. Okay, so is there anything else you'd like to add about this deck?
It's a really cool deck, but at the moment, like I said, it's very much in experimental phases. I don't expect Blurple to come back stronger this set at the moment, just because even if Monstro helps a lot with SteelSong, it's still not a great matchup. At best, it's a 50-50, so
Yeah, but I think it also depends on the build of SteelSong and also on the build of Blurple, because
it always depends on these things and how you come out and how who's on the play and things like this. The game is never the same if you have a bell pop on turn 1 or not. And
yeah, what about locations, by the way? The manners.
yeah, you just need to find some places to put them. There is, like I said, this is very much an experimental deck list. This was to try quite a few new cards. But if you want to have the to add manners, you can always add, like I said, take out the Elsa 4 and take out the Into the Unknown, and then you have 3 spots for manners. Monstro, I don't think will be less than 2 or 3. Even 2 to me is on the light side, because if you need to ink 1 early on, you're down to only finding the last one in your deck, and it's a card that's going to be very important in some matchups. And sometimes it will be the only way to get back to parity in the matchup. So manners at the moment have disappeared a bit because they were not as much needed against either SteelSong, or there was less Be Prepared and things like this, where you needed the manners to be able to say, okay, I've just got Be Prepared, I just put 2 manners on the game, and now it's
yeah, I think it depends on the meta, right? Like,
yeah.
What decks are the most played, and even if you play this at your set champs, you can kind of try to predict if many people are going to play red purple. You maybe can add these manners if you think that you will probably face some faster decks. It's better to replace this manners, yeah, with probably this 4-cost Elzas.
Yeah, there's even some case where you just don't need the Jaffars and you just take out the whole Jaffar lamp side of it, and you just play the deck in a bit older-fashioned way with maybe either more 1-drops, maybe you can adding rabbits. There's, like I said, there's always in Blurple quite a few ways to build the deck. Usually it's never a one build that is the best, because each build has its weaknesses. So this version is okay with losing against SteelSong because it's a bad matchup, but it will usually win against most of the other purple deck, and it probably wins as well against blue-red, just because if you get the you will draw most of your deck, and at one point you would just put a Jafar and get on the play and try to draw
like as a finisher. Okay. Yeah, also it depends on the version of blue-red, because there is this DKP's deck, and also there is the items deck that is pretty much different into its gameplay. It basically draws the whole deck, and then
items is probably unwinnable there.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, it's a bit sad about Into the Unknown because the card is just gorgeous, and I think people would like to be playing more copies of it, but probably it's not a real card of the set of like this set 8. Probably it's the card of set 9, but you see this 8 written on it.
Yeah, I mean, there are quite a few cards there that we won't see until set 9, until rotation has appeared, because since set 1 to 4 has had so much of an impact still today on the game and on the decks, there are quite a few cards that their power will appear clearer once we've just got rid of everything that's way too overpowered.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. Okay, so let's go to the next one, and the next one will be the Emerald Amethyst deck. And so I know that you played it quite a lot during set 7.
Yeah, this was the deck from Team Be Prepared that I think we all played it quite a lot and was nearly the only deck we played or close to it. And it's one of the cases where we can see set 1 and set 1 to 4 had always having an impact because it's a Diablo Prince John deck. And these are cards that will be rotated out in set 9. So as additions from the deck, we got the new chip, which is just for 4 Incubo 3/2, where you can just play the character and the opponent discards a card. And we got the new Basil, which is a 7-drop Incubo 5/4, where you can, once you get into play, it will bounce a card. And if you quest, the opponent discards a card at random. So this strengthens even more the decks because now you get the turn 3 Prince John into turn 4 chip, which is very much oppressing as a discard way to do it. Like you can really go into a turn 2 Diablo Shift, turn 3 Prince John, play a Sudden Chill into turn 4 chip, discard a card. You already have turn 2 with Prince John, and maybe even you can find another Sudden Chill, and then the game is probably over from there. There's 2 other cards that are not listed there, and it's Wrong Lever and Pull the Lever, which are a combo of 2 cards that are supposed to work together. These cards could be very strong in set 8. We need to do a lot more testing. They would replace Hypnotize and Improvise probably. And if they are strong enough, then yeah, it will replace these 2, but they are not quite the same, meaning that if you play a Pull the Lever, which is either draw 2 cards or the opponent discards a card, Hypnotize with a Prince John would do they discard and you draw 2. So it does both sides of Pull the Lever, whereas if you play a Pull the Lever, you would just do the same thing as just a Sudden Chill with a Pull the Lever. So it's not all upsides or all downside. It's a more modal card, and it's very interesting to play because you could discard it turn 2 with a Diablo and try to play Wrong Lever afterwards, just because the second effect of Wrong Lever is so powerful because it's you manage a character strictly on the other side without any condition. Like it's down back to the bottom of the deck. They will never see it again in the game. And sometimes it can solve as well some problems with like the Lilos coming back or the new stage or things like this. Cards that come back from the graveyard. With the Wrong Lever, there we go. It goes down to the library and it's done.
Yeah, I agree with you. And so, what about Basil?
So this.
What do you think of the card?
Yeah, this just fills a gap in the deck, which is you have a very strong turn 8, which is usually a 3-drop plus a Cricky or an Elsa. And you can have some very strong turn 6, which will be a Diablo and a Crab or Prince John and a Diablo or something like this. But the turn 7 always was a bit ugly on the
yeah, you play something and then you have some spare ink and
yeah. Sometimes you could have Genie plus Diablo or Genie plus Prince John, but this was before chip. We only had 3 4-drops, so it was very rarely the case where you could optimize it at the most the turn 7. And Basil as well is it's kind of a Bruno on a stick. We don't talk about Bruno because usually what happens is that the opponent is on top deck mode, and once you play this, you will nearly always have a Sudden Chill or a Hypnotize that you don't know what to do about. And this can help us like just play this, and then you shouldn't show them in the same turn, which acted, yeah, it cost you 2 cards, but you added a card on the board, and they still, it acted like a we don't talk about Bruno. So
yeah, and also, yeah, it's a very strong character. If there is no removal, your opponent will basically
oh yeah,
discard
and
all their hand.
if they have still some cards in the end, once you have played the Basil and still some cards in the end, you can just quest with it and it starts snowballing very heavily with Prince John and things like this. So it's just a card that fills a slot that was a bit on the weaker side for the deck, and it just helps you. Yeah, it fills a gap. It's just very strong.
Okay. Okay, yeah, thank you for commenting on this guy. Yeah, I think 7 is probably a bit expensive, but as long as it's sinkable, it's fine.
Yeah, maybe you won't play it each game, but with this deck, games will go to turn 8, turn 9 every single game unless you've lost beforehand. But this just helps you take control, win the game a tiny bit faster. And as well, it's not a bad card if they play Pete. Like if they go, okay, Pete and something else, and they try to win with this, you can just Basil the card that they try to win with. And it's as well a turnaround, a workaround for Pete.
Yeah.
Which it's the same thing. I know we had Elsa for this, but this works as Elsa 5 and 6. It works as Bruno 5 and 6. It's a bit on the pricier side, but it just adds more consistency to the deck, especially on the mid to late game.
Yeah, yeah, it definitely does. Yeah, I think it will be pretty much playable, but it also depends on the meta, because if people decide to continue playing RubyAmethyst evasive, it will probably be tricky. And I'm also wondering what the matchup will be like. The Emerald Green discard deck against this one.
It's probably a snowball game. I mean, depends. They have Ursula 3, which can snowball as well on their side. So it's probably a who can snowball the hardest and get a Prince John running, because once you have a Prince John running, none of the sides can handle this card, and it's just who can draw the most and who can stop the other from doing anything because they've discarded too much.
Yeah. Yeah, probably that's it. So let's probably discuss the other discard deck we have.
So this is a green steel discard. The cards added are exactly the same, which is the Basil and the chip. It's the same thing. The green basis for set 8 has reached a certain point where this card has enough of everything, and the green basis will be the same. Now it's just about what is the best second color to add to this card basis, which is the Hypnotized, Chip, Prince John, Diablo, and Ursula, and the Bruno. The green steel discard adds better ways to handle cards, to handle opponent characters, which is the Let the Storm and the Strength of Raging Fire. There's not much change. They have added as well Beyond the Horizon, which is one of the new hyped card, and a more reasonable hyped card than Into the Unknown, just because what it does is very, very strong. The effect being that since you can choose a number of players, they discard a hand and draw 3 cards each. You can do it one-sided, you can do it both-sided, depending on where you are with your hand, where they are with their hand. And since they discard, you draw with Prince John. And since they have only 3 cards, you can sometimes just go Ursula, double sing with Sudden Chill, and they are down to 1 card suddenly. And sometimes you'll just sing twice the Beyond the Horizon on them and just draw 6, maybe with Prince John, because they have discarded their hand twice.
Yeah, it's like so versatile. Probably you can use it in so many different decks, all these steel decks, in so many different ways The only drawback to this card, I think, is the fact that it's an inkable.
Yeah.
But it's the thing together, so...
Yeah, this was a bit much, probably, the thing together. I think we might live to regret this card being printed in the coming months.
Some people think that this Steel Emerald discard will probably be overpowered set 8. What's your take?
It's probably going to be one of the better decks to high roll with, meaning that it's unstable. The core of the deck is to be unstable because you only have 4 Diablo 1s, you only have 4 Ursula. So it's a deck that if everything comes at the right time, it won't lose. Now there will be games where you will never see your Diablo 1, you will never see your Ursula freeze, and the deck
you will
doesn't
just
do
break,
much.
I think.
Yeah, you just break and die without having done much. Like the rest of the deck is glue to try to work it. Like there's still the turn 2 morph into turn 3 beast, which is as well another high roll, meaning it needs 2 cards to work together. It needs the morph to not die. It's all conditionally powerful.
Yeah, indeed. Okay. Well, sounds a bit like SteelSong, right?
Yeah.
Let's go to the next one, and the next one is the deck that is not about high rolling, at least in my opinion. It's the Kiwi deck by Harlan Sweet. We see 2 Arthurs, and as far as I remember, at the beginning, Harlan put 4 of them probably, but then he decided to replace them with Gantus, because Gantus is probably most stable. Arthur is a card that can be very powerful because it's actually very strong to play to probably not even turn 4, but as a finisher. You want to combine it with Alice, and if Alice gives word to this card, there are not so many removals in the game, like except for B-Prep, that can deal with this card, and it quests for 3 plus Alice. So if you don't remember Alice, it's a finisher that will quest for 6 in total, and that's a lot. But as a turn 4, I don't know if it's that strong because this Kiwi deck has some weak points, and one of them is the lack of draw. And so if you play it, you will absolutely need to have your dogs, because without your dogs, you will be unable to draw. You will be unable to create new threats on the board.
Yeah, you have Desperate Plan as well to make it dock 5 and 6 if needed, but I'm less hyped on the Arthur just because I don't think, the counter effect just to skip your draw is a bit too harsh for me.
I see what you mean. Especially for the deck that doesn't have that many draw engines. I mean, we are not playing a whole new world here. But however, also this is like a Sapphire Steel, and there is another way to play Sapphire Steel. I mean, you can play Ariel and the blue Ariel, and a whole new world. And like this card, it's not so bad because you don't care about your draw step if you have a whole new world. So probably also this card will be playable in another version of Blue Steel.
It could be. It's just that not drawing is always something that's frightening, and you can never play it whenever you want. You're basically limited to either play it because you're desperate or you think that this will be enough to win. If you're fighting against green and they have this card, if you play it and you don't have exactly the dock or the Desperate Plan just afterwards, they just discard it, and then you have a 6/6 that lures for free per turn. But
I just thought of this, like, isn't it like blocking Diablo? I draw with my Diablo. No, you don't. You don't draw with your Diablo.
I mean, this could be a way, but then it dies to crab plus something. I mean, to me, this is just a card that if it's not played at the exact right time, you will play it.
Ruin your game.
You will just lose the game on the spot, because if you get discarded straight away, then you lure for free per turn, but this is 7 turn to win. And let's just say that you will just need to wait up until they are 15 lore, and then once you have drawn like 3 to 4 cards more, you have inked more, you have better setup, and then you just go, okay, now manage your Arthur, you can draw one, and then but your board is already impossible to get back from, and then you just died because you played an Arthur. So
I don't know. I think it can still be playable. Just you cannot run 4 copies of it. But I think that this deck, like what I like about this card is the fact that your opponent has to deal with it. That means that either they deal with Arthur, and you will not be skipping your like turns draw step any longer, or if they like leave Arthur on the board, you will quest for 3 every turn, and that's an aggro deck, and it means that your opponent doesn't have any interest of you questing for 3 every turn. So that's what makes it powerful here, that your opponent cannot just leave it. You will just win. I mean, it's a 4-cost card, but you have already probably played something like Smeeze and Alice or whatever, Robin, Shift Robin. You will just go to 20 quite fast with Arthur if it's not removed. You have quite a lot of word characters. I mean, you have Alice and Cogsworth, and Alice gives word to somebody else, and that means that sometimes you cannot manage like everything around Arthur. So like Arthur is sometimes the easiest card to manage, or maybe it's just a finisher.
It can be. I think it can work as a 2-off, as a finisher. It's just that you have limited number of cards that you can play at one point if Arthur is in play. And there is one other thing, that if Arthur becomes even dominant one day, we can just play green and play the new Rapunzel, which makes it that the opponent can't the character targeted can't quest every time she quests, and she has evasive. So Arthur would be stuck in loop where it can't do anything anymore, and you wouldn't be able to draw as well.
Yeah.
In case this card get any strong, we already have in green a solution to we just play the new Rapunzel and it's game over for them.
Yeah, I think it's still okay. It can have its place in the deck just because also, again, it's inkable, and if you're playing against an opponent that will probably deal with your Arthur immediately, you just ink it and you play your other cards. There is also this new card, a Desperate Plan. So yeah, I think many people are hyped about it.
It's a very good Dock 5 and 6. There we go. You can't play it really as a 4-off because once you have 2 in hand, it becomes dramatically bad. Or you have to play it with cards like Mulan and Simba, where you can just discard 1 and draw another card for the 1-drops. And then maybe you can go up to 4, but it's a very good card in itself. It's just that the deck needs to be built to either you play only 2 as a Dock for 5 and 6, or you need to build the deck around, in case you draw 2, to be able to discard 1 to be able to play the Desperate Plan accordingly on how it was meant to be played.
Yeah, I think I agree with you on this. So otherwise, the deck is pretty much the same at the moment.
Yeah, Chinpo Bodyguard is very much needed, I think, in this deck, just because you get to go quest with Alice easily, and if you give ward to Chenpo, it becomes a pain to deal with, even with Pluto and things like this. So it just flows well into the deck to be able to play Chenpo and Pluto and things like this.
Yeah, I think the only drawback to this card is that it just quests for 1, and it's same for Bianca. You can probably add Bianca into this deck, but she doesn't do that much. This deck needs to quest fast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also another thing about this deck, Harlan cut the locations completely. I don't know if it's a good thing to do. Manners are very powerful. 9 willpower for 4 is quite a lot. So I don't know, probably they will come back to the deck at some point. What do you think?
Yeah, the metagame is still very much
undefined. Yeah,
open.
it's undefined.
At the moment, the strongest thing to do is what does your deck do best, and just to optimize this for it before adapting to the rest of the metagame. Because it's so undefined, you can just go into the, okay, I want to do this best. How do I build the better deck to do it? And then you would see if there's need to be any metagame adaptation, or if you are the metagame, meaning that you're deck tier 1 and things like this, and they are the other decks needs to adapt to you.
Yeah, that's true, because also I think there is the third branch, let's say so, of Blue Steel, and it's the ally possible deck that can also appear. The new Jasmine shift, I think, also you play the one drop, and then you shift it for 2, and you have a 2/5 character on the board, and I think it could be also pretty much powerful, and also she's beautiful as an enchanted card. So.
Yeah, but it's the same thing. It's probably a value card to be played, but it's a lot weaker at the moment than the other options that we have from set 1 to 4. So it's probably a card that we might see a lot more play once rotation has been enabled.
Yeah, I also think so, because this ally playline, I think that it's probably at some point it will be good, but it hasn't been very efficient.
Yeah,
so
they have
far.
started to push it and things like this, especially in the 2 last sets. It's just that, like I said, set 1 to 4 are already pretty much broken, so they need to get this out in order to leave for these new cards to shine. And even then, when you look at this deck, like very little cards that are from the first few sets, like they lose Smee and Strength and Cogsworth, but that's about it. The rest stays in after rotation. So it's a deck.
There is also Robin, I think. Robin.
Oh yeah, there's also Robin, but I mean, most of the deck stays alive.
Yeah, and you can also put Baymax if you want, and it's a new one.
Yeah, there's Baymax. Maybe there's Aladdin, because power of the decks will go down, and you'll have a bit more time to doodle around and to set up some more value engines and things like this.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good thing about this deck. Okay, so let's go to the next one, and what we have left, we have SteelSong, and so SteelSong, I guess it will also remain a very good deck still, because it's just already so strong. And here we have a Mayor's version of SteelSong. So I think it will not be the only one that's playable, and probably I don't even know if this one will be the most playable. I chose it because of the Rhino line.
To me, it's on the weaker side. I mean, the Rhino line is, in theory, okay, but the price is you don't play Robin, and Robin to me is too much of a strong card to miss out on it. Even if Bianca is supposed to kind of help with this, it's still a turn 4 card at the best, and Robin can come in straight at turn 3 and sing straight away. So to me, Rhino will probably not see play in SteelSong this set. Just it doesn't add enough compared to the price we have.
So you would have just kept the Robin line, right?
Yeah, to me this is just, we're trying some new cards, but SteelSong is probably already at its best. I mean, it hasn't really changed since quite a few sets, and you lose as well on Naveen, you lose on quite a few cards that to me are very strong, and I'm more afraid of a Robin turn 1 than a Rhino on turn 1, just because the shift is so less impressive. If you shift on 2, it means that you haven't played a Smee or a Troubadour. It means that you're all on one card. I mean, and it's just one singer.
Yeah, I see your point. The other card that is not always played in SteelSong is Bare Necessities. So what's your take on this one? I know it's not a new card, but according to the meta that we may have, the meta with probably a lot of discard decks, is this card necessary? Would you play it in SteelSong?
It depends. Basically, SteelSong needs 18 songs in order for Ariel to be okay and to very rarely miss. It needs 18 songs. This version has 20, so to me, you can just choose between the two world's greatest criminal mind or the bare necessities, and two good cards at different points in the game, but they can be as well two very, very bad cards.
Yeah, especially if you're bricking and you are top decking, it's probably the last card you want to top deck. I mean, Bare Necessities. Even a small Robin is better because you can hope for top decking the big one next turn and then a whole new world the turn after, and Bare Necessities is not doing anything. And the card we don't see here, and personally I can't say I am a very big fan of it, but it's actually Naveen.
Yeah.
So, what do you think about Naveen? Would you probably play it?
Yeah, I would play it over quite a few of these cards because it's just a card that helps SteelSong do some high rolls. And like I said before, we are at a point where you need to do the most powerful thing the best, and Naveen helps in this way. Even if it's a good card in itself in 3 for 4 that quest for 2. Okay, it's nothing to be ashamed of, especially after you've done a song for free. So you've you played something for free, which means that it did not cost you any ink, and you added some cards in the board. So in a way, you can treat it a bit like Hades from Blurple, which is, even if there it costs 2 cards, you did something and added some board presence, which to me is the only thing that SteelSong hopes to do in the long run.
Mm-hmm. Well, to me, the drawback is the fact that it's an inkable, and sometimes you can brick more if you have too many uninkables in your SteelSong. In general, I love playing as many inkable cards as possible, but I see the point. I mean, like Naveen, it's so strong. If you're already winning the game, it's the card that will just finish this game most of the time.
And that's why usually the versions that plays Naveen does not play daisies, just because, like you said, we like to stay at around 14 uninkables, and you already have 12 that are mandatory for the deck. So you just either put 2 or 3 Naveens or 2 or 3 daisies, and then the rest needs to be inkable.
Yeah, I agree with you that there are 12 uninkables that you cannot just cut, because these cards are like vital for this deck, like the Storm, a whole new world, and then along came Zeus. You need to keep these. So yeah, Naveen and Daisy, I think they still remain optional.
Yeah.
Okay, so we also have another deck, and it's HyperAggro. It's Ember Emerald HyperAggro, Ramp King, 21 lore, turn 4 win. There is this new tramp that many people are so hyped about. What's your take on the card and on the deck? Do you like playing aggro overall?
Not much from me.
I think it's same for me, but yeah.
It's not something that I don't find it. Usually, it's a deck that strives on being on the play. Basically, it's a deck that once it's on the play, it does very powerful things, especially if you get to do the turn 1 Daisy, turn 2 Lilo, and Curse Merfolk, and then you just feel on the top of the world where you come out like this. But it's a deck that has its limitations as well, and it struggles very much to win in the end game. It struggles to draw. If you don't have, let's say, the best opener possible or close to it, that's why they play as much one drops as possible. It's just because they want to do turn one drop, turn two, one drop, one drop.
And yes, also because of Stitch Rockstar that has a good synergy with all this.
But I mean, it plays 4 Rapunzel, which there's only Daisy that draws really well with it before turn 4. It's a high roll deck. It's just one of the more unstable one. It can get attacked from multiple angles and really struggle to finish the game at a point. That's why other versions play Chernobog and things like this. Even though the new Tramp is a very good card, especially against red and even against steel. It's just it's something that you need to have the Tramp 2 in play because you never play 6 to play this. So it's a 2-card combo where you don't draw very much besides this. I mean, to me, it feels a bit clunky. And sometimes you would just go, okay, well, I've bricked, I've drawn like 10 1-drops and the deck does absolutely nothing past 10 lore, and then you would just start drawing bricks every turn. And sometimes you would just feel, like I said, overpowered, where you just go turn 1 lady, turn 2 you go Daisy and Tramp, and then you quest for 3, and then turn 3 you just go another Tramp, another Daisy, and I don't know, Curse Merfolk, you quest for something like 6, I think, and then you just go on, yay, I'm overpowered. But this is maybe 1 game in 5 or 1 game in 4.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. So I think that if I were to choose between the Chernadog and this one, I would probably go with Chernadog because it's a bit more stable. I think HyperAggro is maybe good when you give it to a person who didn't play Lorcana a lot, even if it's a good player, but or also to a person who loves aggro gameplay overall, because some people just hate long games. For me, for example, the more stable the deck is, like the more I like it, because I want to have this feeling of controlling what the deck is doing.
Yeah, that's usually the case for people that consider themselves a bit better than the field around. They want to be able to control better what they are doing by drawing more cards, by having more stability and being more consistent. But these kind of decks are not simple to play as well. Aggro decks usually are on the harder side because you have less options. And
yeah, that's true actually, and that's why you have less options, and they are easy to learn but hard to master, I think.
And hard to build as well correctly. There's what you ink, what you don't ink, when do you ink as well is important, because sometimes you would just never go past maybe 2 because you've decided in your hand that with all the 1-drops you have, you can just go two 1-drops every turn for the next 3 turns, and then you just go, okay, that's the way I will win. And sometimes you would just need to ink every turn and just go up to Tramp or to go up to Stitch and say, okay, this is how I will win. So it's really dependent on knowing what is strong against what decks and knowing what position you are in as well. If you are the aggro player, if you are the control player, at what point the shift becomes clearer. So this is why playing aggro decks usually has a very high learning curve, because it's all these micro decisions that you will take and that you will pay during the next 5 to 6 turns, where at the end you will finish at 18 or 19 lore. Whereas if you had made another decision, you would have taken the 1 lore that was missing.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. And yeah, as I said, it's easy to be an aggro player, but it's difficult to be a good aggro player.
Yeah.
So it's just that some people play aggro, or we give aggro decks to some newbies, to some people who are new to TCGs overall, not only to Lorcana, because some games or some matchups you can win even if you play like not so good, even if you make some mistakes, because aggro has these very polarized matchups, let's say so, because there are some control decks who will not manage to do anything with aggro, just not on time.
Yeah, there's as well the fact that aggro usually, at the beginning at least, it makes you only care for a few things, which is the board. You just have to understand how the board works. It's a very polarized thing. It's a very polarized deck because it helps you as well learn how do you win by playing the board. You have to learn how to play the board. What position are you in the board? How do you trade? When do you trade? When do you go questing? When do you wait? How much pressure can you put? Like sometimes you will not quest with, you have maybe, I don't know, 3 Daisy in play and they have, I don't know, a Diablo 1 on board, and then you just go, okay, I won't quest with it because I risk being taken by something, and if I play something else, it's better for me, and it will put too much pressure on them. And counting math as well, which is in 3 turn, if I play 2 characters per turn, will I have enough ink? I don't care about my draws, they are just inks. Do I get to 20 with these things? But it's really one of the best ways to learn how to play the board. And then once this, you can apply this to every single other decks that you play in Lorcana.
That's a nice take, actually. Yeah, that, because some people also consider aggro decks to be like only the decks for the beginners, and like saying there are some people that think that only bad players play aggro. There are some stereotypes and stuff, but it's true that what you say is true about the board, and also what we mentioned, that it's actually difficult to master this deck. It's difficult to be a really good aggro player.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the last deck I want to show is the RubyAmethyst deck by Earlmeister. RubyAmethyst is still alive. Like every set, people want to bury it, but it comes back, and that's why I wanted to show it. And talking about some interesting choices, I guess Earl wanted to add maybe as many new cards as possible, so that's why we see this Hades. I'm not sure though that if this card is like so strong. It's an inkable again, and in RubyAmethyst, most of your inkables are quite expensive. So that's the question for me. If you want to add another uninkable to RubyAmethyst, that costs 7. It's basically a draw engine, but I think I won't be playing this in RubyAmethyst because it's just too slow, and you just have better draw engines.
Yeah, this is just a card to help the move damage RubyAmethyst deck. And it's logical at the beginning to try to shove in the most new cards just because, well, it's new.
Yeah.
So we want to try them. But in the end, usually it will just go back to what we know with, it will be the exact same deck as set 7 with maybe 1 or 2 new cards that just adapt a bit better to the metagame, and that's about it.
Yeah, I also think, I completely agree with you. And in RubyAmethyst, overall, as a RubyAmethyst player, I can't say that I'm really big fan of this build. Because, yeah, I see 2 Flins, 4 Tremaines, 4 related Tremaines, and a lot of one-offs. And there are lots of cards like Tremaine. They're very situational. You don't want to play them every game if you don't expect a lot of Ruby Sapphire. I'm not sure that 4 Remains are that useful, so I would change this deck like quite a bit.
Yeah, but like I said, we are in an unknown metagame. We just want to try the new cards at the moment, which is to know what cards we are very happy to see every single time, what cards we think are good in some situations. And this is all just to be able to get an idea of the powers of each card. There are some cards that we think are powerful but are just bad once we play them a bit around, and there are cards that we think are just bad and end up being very powerful because we have a deck that we have a situation that comes up very often where this card specifically is very strong.
Yeah, I agree. So, of course, at the very beginning, we see a lot of new cards, just, like people want to try them. And then most of the time, people replace them with these perfect cards from sets 1 and 2. But also, I think maybe Earl created this deck in order to try to like see what happens if we already get rid of these like overpowered cards. We see Mother Gothel, and he added 2 copies of this card. I think it could be playable, but again, to me, it seems more of a card like you add this because it's new.
Like I said, there are quite a few cards that we just want to try because it's new. It changes the way we play the deck. It changes the way we view the game. And sometimes we get, even if a card that we think is bad can just, once we play it, come back very much better. And sometimes a card that we think is very good would just come back very much worse once we play.
Yeah, exactly. And what I was thinking that also probably Earl Maester created this deck just because he also wants to try to see what RubyAmethyst can be. Like if we remove a lot of set 1 and set 2, set 3 cards, probably that's why also. Because many people are wondering if RubyAmethyst will survive if we remove all this bounce package.
Yeah, this we can't know before we get the set 9 that
Yeah,
we have
exactly.
50% reprints, so maybe the bounce package stays. We don't know this, so there's no point in trying to find out if a deck is still alive unless the deck is already not playing any cards from set 1 to 4 or very little that can be easily replaced. At the moment, there's no point in trying to...
Yeah, a lot of information is just missing, so you cannot just make your guesses like blind guesses. Like let's just remove some powerful cards and play without them. Even though it can be challenging for some people, it can be just fun. Playing something new. Also, there are so many players who are just like sick and tired of playing the same cards again and again. And I heard some people complaining about this during the set champs, like all the same decks, always the same thing. And of course, also if you play something like spicy, you get this friendly points from people around. It's more fun for them to play against you.
Yeah, true, but if it's for you to get destroyed, and that's why rotation is coming in. I mean, if you're unhappy with the way the format is at the beginning, just wait another 3 months and then you have a fresh new format. But then
a whole new format,
a whole new format to play with, and even then, sometimes you would just find something new to complain about. So it's really about... There will always be in a TCG a best deck and some cards that are frustrating. All cards are frustrating in a way because there is only a few ways to handle them or something like this. Maybe in the new set, in the new rotation, Rabbit would have been okay because there's no bounce around or things like this. So cards are always frustrating in a context and because of what is around.
Yeah, like Popsicle plus Bell plus Tamator, they were very frustrating, plus Hiram, so that's why they banned him. Lots of Lorcana cards, they are good because they have great synergies. And like SteelSong, it also has so many good cards. But if you don't have this synergy with a whole new world, it definitely becomes worse because you break. If there is no synergy, you cannot be that strong.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that's all with the new decks, and we will definitely see some more new decks that we haven't mentioned yet. I think also that Ruby Sapphire will still be playable. So thank you. If you want to tell us about any of your socials, please do.
Yeah, you can reach me easily on Discord at Willi and otherwise you can find me as well on Twitter.
Okay, so links will be in the description, and thank you.